Alright, the purpose of today's video is just kind of show you guys around, show you where all the railroad spots are, as well as bore you to death with all sorts of weird Elmhurst history. I'm in Yorkfield right now. School bus, he has to stop for me. Yeah, on Lexington. This is old, familiar territory for me. When you get over here, this is where Yorkfield School used to be. Alright, yeah, all gone. School shut down in '77 and the structure was gone mid-90s. This was the Yorkfield Community Center. I'm in the process of building a video about that. I'm not sure what's going on. There's Wayne's old house. Anyways, what's happened in Elmhurst is a lot of the old housing stock is no longer perceived as operational, functional obsolescence. So a lot of the older stuff is being ripped out and replaced by what we locals call McMansions. Alright, this is Killer Lexington up here. And it's Killer Lexington because people don't know how to obey the signals here. A video I made this summer, it's Our Town, Let's Slow Down. I talk about the tragedy that occurred on this particular corner. Across the street, that's where the first Jewel I ever knew was. Of course, the first Jewel was all the way up on the curb, and then that building back there, that's the second Jewel. And then when that Jewel shut down, they built the other one up there at York and Butterfield. Wednesday morning, traffic sucks. I'm going to pull into Lottery Central here and get me a Powerball ticket. I think Powerball's up to 550 mils, so I'm going to have to click off for just a second. Toyotas. This is the second gas station in my memory on this corner. There was another, like a Mobile or something, got back in the 60s and 70s. What I remember about it is it had a photo mat right about here where the car wash is. And I saw a couple. Okay, that was kind of neat. Chit-chatted for about 5-10 minutes with two guys that had been around Elmhurst, Yorkfield all their lives. And we were talking about different things. I mostly steered the conversation to old tales of beer drinking at the parks. And one guy was talking about the lagoon over at Eldridge Park. Then we started talking about all the old 4 a.m. places. Alright, so this is eastbound Butterfield Road, Illinois 56. We're going up Butterfield Hill right here. The Yorkfield School used to be way over there. Butterfield Park with the water tower. Incidentally, underneath this lane is a 9-foot water pipe. It's concrete, cast iron. It's from the Water Commission, and it's the main pipe that serves DuPage County. And coming up here on the right, this thing with the big fence. I made a video about a SUV that plowed into the fence there a few years ago. I remember that. Well, anyways, that's the big waterworks and reservoir. Now this is the Tri-State Tollway, 294, the big widening project for all the ramps is going on right now. I mean, we're talking about some massive ramps. We're talking about a huge pile of money here. There's Storage Mart built upon top of the old S&H property. Way back in there, there used to be a mid-rise office tower. Look it up on YouTube. Office Tower Dies. I videotaped the demolition of that office tower, and then there's also video from the inside before it got torn down. And I worked there. All right, water tower. One of my best jobs while I was working over here at the old S&H complex. They had the fire inspector coming out, and they had to cycle the water tower and fill it up. And so the guy says, you know, it's easy as all hell he just didn't have the time or the energy to do it, so he shows me it's like 2 valves and an electric switch. It was a knife switch too. And he says, just do this, you know, and it'll start filling up. And I look at him and I said, well, how do I know when it's filled up? And he gives me this really stupid look, and he points to this giant pipe. There's like this 10-inch discharge pipe at the bottom of the water tower, and he goes, when you see water coming out of there, then you'll know the water tower is filled. Okay, so if you've noticed, we've been following the old Illinois Central tracks. Now the Canadian National, and briefly it was the Chicago Central and Pacific. The signal down there at Wolf Road is yellow over red. So regular viewers of the channel who know my obsession for the Addison local and some of the other CN trains, reading this signal is really kind of important. By knowing it's yellow over red, I know that there's probably nothing around, but I gotta go see the other side of the signal. Make the turn here at Wolf Road. That's Proviso High School over there. Proviso West is actually closer to where I live than York High School, to where I went. There used to be like a Firestone over there, and then a deli, and then they didn't survive and they got pulled down. Here's the grade crossing. This is Harrison Street here. So we can look down the right-of-way. From here, you know, from the county line going all the way down to Berwyn, it's like a perfectly straight line. So if you're standing there at Wolf Road and you look to the east down those tracks, if there is a train ready to go in Berwyn, you will see the headlight from the 6-7 miles away. There's the old Hillside Theater up there. Carson Perry Scott used to be here at the Hillside Mall, and the Hillside Mall is gone. I got a video out there called Where the Hillside Mall Used to Be, with the subtitle Obscure History. Okay, so I just looked up the tracks to the west-northwest. We have a green, so we got nothing heading for us at this time. The local, the Addison local, has been returning eastbound about 9:30 for the last couple weeks. However, today I'm not really doing anything about the local unless I happen to get lucky with it. And the same for the rest of these trains. Alright, so that's the signal. I got the green. So the Hillside Mall, of late, they tore down an old bank that was at the back of the property there, up against the expressway. They've also been using this as a storage yard for the big tollway construction project. They had the electric pylons sitting there for about a year before they were actually able to put those in. So we're going north on Wolf. We're coming up on Butterfield. Butterfield runs at a diagonal, and I was on Darmstadt Road over there by S&H. That runs at a diagonal. This gas station over here, this was an Amoco years ago. It might have been a Standard even before that. There used to be a really cool funeral banquet hall here. Hillside Post Office is coming up. They shut that down for most operations. There's like almost no staff in there. I think you can get your post office box there. And the Hillside Fire Department. Not that many years ago, the Hillside Fire Department had 2 fire stations. One right there at Wolf and Darmstadt, and the other one, the one we just passed, and they decided to consolidate into the one station. We just went under a viaduct, the one that's behind us there. That's the old Chicago Great Western Viaduct, also the Chicago Aurora and Elgin. So this is the what they would used to call the far west suburbs. The old phone books, you know, we were like near west, far west. If you were on this side of the tollway, it was like a near west suburb, and if you were like Elmhurst or beyond, that was a far west suburb. And now the suburbs are hell. You know, Elmhurst is about 15 miles west of the loop, and I think we're talking about, you know, urbanization out to about 35, 40 miles from the loop. Okay, that used to be the Red Barn Restaurant. That building over there, which is now Honey Can Do, that was the old Walgreens secure warehouse for drugs. This is the intersection, by the way, where my father got rear-ended by the lady who I knew. That was kind of awkward when I saw her taken away in the ambulance. You know, what do I say to her? Oh, hi, how you doing? Was that you that just rear-ended my dad? Oh. It used to be a great bookstore back in there, the Book Exchange. The guy that ran it was really nice. One day he was in there and 3 thugs walked in, cracked his head open, and he succumbed to injuries almost a year later. It was a theft. It was not a burglary, but it was an outright strong-arm theft. I believe they got $7, something like that. A real tragedy. Okay, this is Taft. We're in Berkeley. Berkeley, I believe, got its start due to the Chicago, Aurora, and Elgin Interurban Railway, which is down that way about 6 blocks. As the tracks went west, there were stops, and then villages and stuff grew up around the stops. Villa Park is like that. You have the section of Ardmore, and then the section around Villa Avenue. And those were all laid out, and they were marketing it by bringing people out from the city on the interurban, on the trolley. Okay, we're about to go over a double expressway here. The first one we're going over is 294, the Tri-State. That's the Tri-State. And then over here we got 290. This is the Eisenhower. The Eisenhower extension. The Eisenhower, the true Eisenhower, the old Congress Expressway, basically runs due west from the Chicago Loop, almost at the precise center of town, as if to cleave the loop in half. However, once it gets out past Mannheim Road, they needed to run a line up to the northwest to hook in all those northwestern Cook County suburbs. Kind of makes you want to be the guy who knows where the interchanges are going in. Okay, this is old Elmhurst Junior High. Was renamed after Carl Sandburg. It's now Sandburg Middle School. Sandburg was a resident of this town. Carl Sandburg, I believe he wrote some of the Lincoln years while he was here in Elmhurst. And I believe he wrote the famous poem, Chicago, City of Broad Shoulders, Hog Butcher of the World. I believe he wrote that while he was a resident here in Elmhurst. Okay, we're now on Poplar going north. I might be wrong here. I want to say this subdivision over in here is Brynhaven. And this one in mid-50s. Ah, we got a power move up ahead. So the housing stock here, this all started about 1955. And the smaller split levels, the smaller ranch houses, they were quality houses to begin with, so they're not being ripped out like some of the other neighborhoods are. There's nothing like showing off the town you love on trash day when everybody's got their trash cans out. All right, these little orange construction fences, the city started doing that, I don't know, a dozen years ago. But it's like a tip-off for us locals. If we see a orange construction fence, we know that there's either going to be building or it's going to be a teardown. Okay, here's the Proviso rail yard. There's the power move up there. A light power, I should say. Light power. Okay, we're gonna stop right here for a minute. We're gonna see, let that light power catch up to us, I think. So the Proviso rail yard is behind me, and it's a huge rail yard. And moving around the rail yard can be difficult for the locomotives, the train engines. So what'll happen is they actually have the trains leave the yard. They come all the way out to the Arlington Haven grade crossing, and they sit anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes, and they come back into town, into the yard, I should say. And when they come back into the yard, they get switched over to something like radically different on the other side. We're getting close to downtown Elmhurst. They didn't go far enough to turn off the detector. Alright, so I'm going to take a lottery break here. Oh, the light power is now moving. Time to become a millionaire. Alright, so the Powerball tonight is like 500 or 550 million. I mean, the odds are incredibly against me winning, but it gives me a chance to, you know, pull off the street and say hi to people. Alright, so this is the old Chicago Northwestern, now the Union Pacific. What's unique about this rail line is when they built it out of Chicago, there were no other tracks built into Chicago at the time. Now we got something coming out. It looks like another light power move. Let's go down there and take a look, huh? So they brought in all the rail by ship to the port of Chicago, Chicago River, and they started building out from Wolf Point, and as they built, they started operating. About 1900, they needed a classification yard, and they built the Proviso rail yard. Oh, it's the same power move over there. They're going up to yard 9, so we'll make a left across the tracks here. You're gonna have to look quick because I can't wait on the tracks. They just went to the left over there. So around 1900, they built this massive railroad yard over there, the Proviso Railroad Yard. It's Proviso because that is the township in Cook County in which it was built. I think altogether there's like 5 municipalities. It does touch out on Elmhurst, Berkeley, Northlake, Melrose Park, Bellwood. I think those are the towns that touch the yard, touch the main track. They are now rebuilding that yard. It's being changed from the old style classification yard into a quick in and out service yard for the containers. Over there, there's a tear down. It was like a medical office building that had been built in a house style structure. Okay, this is Park Street here. We're going to follow these tracks out to West Avenue and see if there's anything coming in by the old quarry. Alright, so I'm going to make a video about this underpass pretty soon. The video that has the most views in my entire collection is something called This trailer blocked the west line. That grade crossing I just crossed, well, a lowboy trailer got caught up there. And I just filmed them getting it off the tracks, and apparently every truck driver in the world wants to see this. And the guy that got the truck stuck, he had the unfortunate infamy of making the comment, "Hey, don't post that," which has since made him immortal. So I got like 5 million people have watched that video. It's kind of mind-blowing when I think about that. So we're on Park, we're heading west, we're in Elmhurst, we got the 2 new buildings here, we got new super building across the way, and yet another new super building here. There's the old post office. Who was it? Secretary Morgenthau dedicated this like back in the early 30s. All right, now where the parking garage is right there, 150 years ago, there was a tiny little railroad turntable right there. Elmhurst Public Library. Right over in here was a office building where I got my first experience training in marketing. A friend of mine, his father was doing focus groups, and he needed somebody to run the video camera behind the one-way glass, and that became me, and I was making good coin. And the benefit, the added benefit, was I got to hear this guy work. And market research is absolutely fascinating for me, because you have to be a really good listener. You have to have respect for those people you are listening to, and you have to have a mind that's capable of thinking in multiple dimensions. Okay, so we just crossed the tracks again. I'll bring you down over here. The quarry is up there on the right. Not a quarry anymore, it's a floodwater retention, but there was a pair of tracks that came off here that went into the quarry. One of the tracks, you see where these track machines are, and then this was a gate right here. They had a direct drive locomotive. Direct drive locomotive to go into that quarry. I don't know if you can make out the quarry too well. Alright, they are still making concrete here. Anything gets built in this county, there's a good chance that the concrete came from this plant. Alright, now that other track dead ends right there. They just improved this track this last autumn, and they're keeping the maintenance away machines over here for the time being, I think because of all the construction that's going on at the Proviso rail yard, and I think that's one of the reasons they keep this track going. So I'm on 1st Street now, heading east, heading back towards beautiful downtown Elmhurst, or do you say city center? City center was one of the most incredibly stupid things they ever did in this town. Are you familiar with something called TIF districts? TIF is TIF for tax increment financing. Elmhurst has something like 17 or 100 TIF districts. I don't think there's any private areas left. I'm exaggerating, of course. Here's how it works. See all these properties here? They're all in a district. They got an invisible line drawn around them. They all pay their property taxes. They all pay their property taxes. But instead of those property taxes being distributed out to all the different, like the school districts and the fire departments and the city government, instead the money is put into a kitty, and that money is used to improve the downtown, this area here. So they get better snow removal. They have, oh, I don't know, festivals. They have bribes to induce people to open a business here. Now, the last time I checked, I think it was, if you rent a storefront along here, you can get something like $10,000, $12,000 money up front from the city. The idea being the city wants you to get a business going, and once we have a business going, that means there are people coming into town. That means that there are people spending money, and the overall net effect would be profit for the city of Elmhurst and its taxpayers. The legislation had been written for what was referred to as blighted areas. And downtown Elmhurst, while a little shabby in the late 70s, was not a blighted community. So what's going on is that money that should be going out to all these different places, you know, the public services, the school, like the schools really had a conniption fit, so what they had to do is they had to cut a second deal. So they take the money away from the schools, but then they give the school money back. All right, that's the biggest part of the property tax around this town. But still, what we're doing is nobody gets to subsidize my place on the south end of town. I don't get any help from the city there. The county, I mean the township, you get some sort of tax homestead exemption, but ain't nobody paying me $10,000 to live in South Elmhurst or the Yorkfield metropolitan area. So we're subsidizing these businesses in the city center. They're telling us in the businesses, well, hey, look, we're bringing all these people into town, and they're spending money here, and that money is greater than what you've lost from the tax increment financing district. There used to be something called free enterprise, and then businesses would rise or fall upon their own worth. So what we've created here is kind of a Frankenstein, where we have an extra loop of revenue and people and regulations, and I just don't like it. You know, we've created a system where we have, it's supposed to be everybody is equal, but quite obviously some people are more equal than others. We're back at St. Charles Road in Poplar. It's 8:47 in the morning and I don't see a crossing guard. So I gotta wonder if they have school in today at the junior high. Okay, now check out this fancy, you saw that fancy gateway? Yeah, that neighborhood here was supposed to be a cemetery when they laid it out all those years ago. They thought they would be able to survey it and, you know, and start selling cemetery plots, and they built that grand entrance there. They found out real quick that once people came across the county line, they wanted to live here, not to be placed into the ground here. So real quick, they resurveyed and houses started being built. Okay, we're going back over the expressways again. Here's a view looking south on 290. Lake Elmhurst, the upper and lower Elmhurst reservoirs are right over there, right between the expressways. In the old days, there used to be some good beer drinking places for the underage guys, and you could go down to what we called Future World between the expressways. And at Future World, you could watch the cars while you were drinking. Over here, that's used to be a school that's now a religious institution. The strip mall, this guy just put a lot of money into fixing it up. Berkeley has their own TIF district, and we are in their TIF district. This one, I believe, is justified. What they had was a hodgepodge of different mixtures of companies, businesses, retail, commercial, residential. What they were able to do here is they did a really good job of repaving and putting in curbs. And look at all the street lights and everything here. The private owner of these malls, what I've been told, what I've been led to believe, is that this guy got some money to fix up the storefronts, the facades and everything. And that's a good thing, because when you have a nice, clean, crisp looking area, then people will come in. If it's the opposite, people will stay away. The Red Barn Restaurant. Okay, southbound on Wolf again. And yeah, this is part of the daily routine. We're going to deviate back into Elmhurst, though. I just got a warning that I need gas. But that's okay. They'll give me a chance to double back onto and see the tracks again. Since you're with me today, I'm not going to go back on Darmstadt right away. What I'll do is, if I don't space off, I'll make the right on Butterfield. Okay, we're coming up on the old viaduct again. That's the prairie path up there now. And you see how the road jogs? If you look at the old 1938 aerial photos, you'll see this is under construction. 1938, that was a grade crossing up here on top. And then they built the viaduct. And that was for the trolley and the Chicago Great Western Railroad. The trolley died off approximately 1960. The Chicago Great Western ran trains till about 1972, I want to say, on that leg. Although the same line west of Salt Creek and Elmhurst, that kept going into the mid-late 80s. Okay, this is beautiful downtown Hillside. That bank there, that's the old York State Bank branch. Okay, Specialty is still here. A buddy of mine worked there. And there's Q's Pizza, and Stymax is empty. West Hill Garage, the old apartments. If you look through the hole between the buildings, you might see the old nunnery. That's now Hillside Public Works. Hillside is a small village that's been very creative and almost aggressive in the way they've been trying to get things done. It's really crazy trying to get a construction permit in this town. I've seen places with permits hanging up for like a year. I gotta wonder about that. But you know, over there at Hillside Avenue, they truncated Hillside. They divided the business district with the restaurants from the residential district, which in turn gave them a lot more parking. So here's the Illinois Central again. And we're coming up on this construction at the Tri-State Tollway. This is an artificial cut here, going under these bridges and stuff. When they built all these expressways from the mid-50s on, they had to do a lot of stuff to preserve the street traffic, the surface streets, as well as the railroads. Okay, we're about to enter DuPage. That millionaire's house used to be over there. That got torn down a dozen years ago and the cul-de-sac built. Right here is the high point of the area. What I like about the camera is it kind of shows the hills a lot better than what you would notice if you were just walking or casually riding through here. Used to be a traffic signal at Colfax, pedestrian crossing for Yorkfield School. And we're gonna go get gas. Well, wouldn't you know, we started talking about mice out of all things. A lot of people I know are having problems with mice in their cars. And the guy inside there just kind of confirmed that, yeah, he's seen more mice this year than before. Van Buren! right in here is some of the higher ground for the immediate neighborhood. Right back up in this general area, there's like one or two of these houses sits up on top of like the high ground. It's like 715 feet or something. Over here, they just tore down a beautiful brown brick, I'd call it a ranch home. It was a one-story ranch home. Too bad. We'll go down this street here. There's the old water tower, built in like 1958 or something. They built all three water towers at the same time. All right, here's Linden. Now, that side of the street is all the rebuilt houses. Oh my gosh, did they tear a house down today? They did. Okay, since I was here yesterday, I think, they tore down yet another house. Knew some people who lived on this corner back in the early 60s. Remember walking across the park, you know, to go visit them. So the older subdivision is on the left. This used to be for years kind of like the edge of town. We're going to get on Madison Street here. Madison Street here, where we are, this is the McDougal section. The old Benton Atwood farmhouse barn was up the hill over there. And that all came down. And then they built these houses, I remember, when they put these up. Now Stewart, we'll go up Stewart here. In the old days, there was a whole neighborhood that was isolated from the rest of Elmhurst, and this was the first connector street that was built to put it in. It was one of these houses, I think it was this one here. I have a vivid memory, it'd be about 1966, of the walls going up and the construction guys. And then around 74, 75, I remember this one going up. All right, we're entering the Park Manor subdivision. House that got hit by fireworks in 1969. I think this is Cedar. And there's a house here. They're doing something. Oh, this is a garage guy. They've taken a one-car garage to make it a two-car garage. This subdivision, yeah, this is Cedar. This subdivision, this block, when it was built, there were a lot of one-car garages in 1960 for the first several houses that went up. And people were asking for two-car garages, and real quick, the builder started making everything with two-car garages. We're back on Butterfield. We're heading east. We're going to kind of loop through that whole area that we looped through before. It's 9:14 now, so we're kind of in the zone where the Addison local might be coming back. And this time I'll focus on the construction here on the right. I've been in that storage place. I think the one area is haunted, and it's probably haunted by Mr. Darmstadt, whose house used to stand right there. Okay, so we're back on Darmstadt. We're going past that water tower again. So here's the tracks off to the left. And I just saw the signal. It's still yellow over red. We've either missed the local or it's not getting ready to show up. I'll know for sure when I get to the other side over there by the Proviso Township office and I look on the opposite side of the signal. If it's red, then I know something will presently show up. Used to be a bar on this corner called Baba's. That burned down, 1999, 2000, something like that. The story that came out of that was there was a claim that there was an underground tunnel that connected the bar to the house next door, and when the firefighters fought the fire, it flooded the tunnel and the tunnel caved in. Why a tunnel? And somebody explains, well, it goes back to the old Prohibition era, when people were running booze, and so I guess the liquor would get delivered to the house, and then they would bring it underground to the bar, as if nobody's going to notice that liquor is being served in a bar. So we're up on Wolf Road. We're making the turn where the Firestone, and I can't remember the name of the deli. They had a tuna fish sandwich they called the Big Kahuna Tuna. It was okay, a little too heavy on the dill though. Proviso West High School. Here's the ComEd substation. It's flooded every time there's a heavy rain. Okay, nothing down the tracks. So what I'm going to do here is, since I know I'm heading down towards Broadview, I'm just going to keep going straight here. Here's the old Hillside Bowl. Man, this goes back a long, long time. They now got the slot machines and stuff in there. And next to it is the old Hillside Theater. I remember this theater very well. Seen a lot of movies here, and now it's a church. Freedom Hillside Church. We're coming to the top of the hill. The expressway was actually drilled through the center of the tallest part of the hill. And coming up here on the right, okay, that brown brick building there, the claim is that is the highest ground in Cook County. Yeah, and let's keep in mind that a lot of Cook County is swamp, so I don't know if that's really saying much. I think you got about 100 plus feet difference between Lake Michigan and here. Maybe 120, maybe 150. It's really not all that much. So this is Oak Ridge Street, and we're coming up on the grade crossing. So what I do is I slow her down and I look, and it's a green signal going that way, and I don't see anything going that way. If the local was coming back, then it would have been a red at Wolf. Since it's a green, that tells me there's nothing on those tracks going out for a while. Alright, they got a squad parked over there to watch the side streets. Okay, that's a nice big truck up there. So at the low spot here, there's this little creek that goes through. And that creek is kind of like another version of the abandoned creek, which is a video on my channel. This little creek back in here has always been a problem creek, and I think it was in the 70s when they channelized it. There's actually a big pipe underneath Roosevelt Road here, and the water, most of the water goes down the pipe to Addison Creek, which is about a mile and a half that way. We'll be crossing it in a bit. There's Oak Ridge Cemetery there. The low spot is where the creek goes under the road there. If you watch the channel, you might have seen the videos I've made about the gang funerals. There's at least 2 of them. Those gang funerals came into Oak Ridge. And then maybe 2 weeks ago, there was a enormous funeral for a Chicago firefighter out here. I made a video for that. And they did the indoor stuff behind us at the old funeral home there. And then the interment was back in here somewhere. So we're coming up on Mannheim Road. And Mannheim Road here is 3 highways. 3 U.S. routes, 12, 20, and 45. This is kind of the border between Westchester and Hillside. And this corner, just so you know, this is pretty much all ancient swamp. It's lowland. There was a creek that followed along the right-of-way there. You can see it in the 1938 aerial photos. They just tore down some stuff over here for urban renewal. And then coming up, well, we have our tracks again. I'm thinking that 100 years ago, this was probably a grade crossing, but this all interconnects with some other history. We just crossed where the old Westchester branch of the interurban went, and then we're coming up on the Harbor Belt over here, Indiana Harbor Belt Railroad. You see that viaduct ahead of us? That viaduct goes over the Harbor Belt. And do you see how high the embankment is here for the old Illinois Central? Now this bridge here, slow it down. Okay, you see this tiny little bridge? That's Addison Creek. So they have to bridge the creek. Oh, we got a squad coming up here. Let's see what he's up to. They have to bridge Addison Creek, go over the Harbor Belt, and you might be able to see the Harbor Belt when we come over here, and I'm going to pan to the right. And then they had to maintain their original grade. Okay, there's the Harbor Belt. So I don't know where the squad's going. Once you get another 1.5, 2 miles down Roosevelt, there is a neighborhood where they've had some, well, violence, sadness, death. It's not a good situation. Incidentally, this is the food plant, so if you ever hear me talk about the Addison local and the food plant, this is it right here. It always smells like garlic and rosemary and stuff over here. Alright, here's Broadview Emergency Services, and then up here, I don't know if you can really see it, is the connector track to the Harbor Belt. The bridge is 2 tracks. The one is the main, the other one is the industrial lead with the link to the Harbor Belt. So what I do is I go through this little neighborhood here, because what'll happen is it'll bring me up onto the tracks in a nice area, and it's one of my favorite areas to record. And anybody who's watched anything on my channel, they know how obsessed I am with this area. So 21st Avenue. You got to really come in from this way, because if you come in off 17th, it's a one-way at the tracks, and then you got to go around the block, and then there's a grade school, and you don't want to be messing around back in there with all the kids. So I like coming in from this way, but I'm not parking on this side anymore ever since the one neighbor got bent. I have no idea why. It was not rational. I wasn't anywhere near the guy's place. I was parked almost up on 17th, and calls the cops on me, and the cop was just shaking his head, and I voluntarily moved. I'm not going to tick off the neighbors. Anyways, here's our junction. We got new signal towers here and a new automatic switch. It was a different type of switch setup in the old days. If you look at the videos I've made over here, you can see the crew throwing the switch by hand. Now it's automatic. I don't know where it's controlled from. Probably Canada. Now 17th Avenue here is kind of interesting because this neighborhood used to stop here at the tracks, and I don't think there was any road here in the 30s. I think what happened is the World War II development got things going, and there were some pretty massive foundries and factories back in here, but they all shut down, and the retail came about in the early 90s, I want to say. And they're still trying to improve the area here. But, you know, just as quick as one place opens up, another place will close down. Up here on the corner is one of the area's better-known establishments, Old Warsaw Restaurant. It says Sawa's Old Warsaw Polish-style smorgasbord. They got good food in there. And I'm not being paid to say that. Mr. Submarine just reopened, now with slot machines. Guy wanted to be hit. Here's Addison Creek again. Okay, so in order to get down back over to 25th Avenue, you got to jump down onto the frontage road. Reckless guy in the white car is directly behind me. They just rebuilt this over here. Coming up over here on the corner, this is the bakery. They used to have a thrift shop right here on the corner. I used to go in there, you'd buy a bag of animal crackers for like 75 cents. You know, it was like 10 pounds of animal crackers. Oh, those days are over with. So I'm back on 25th. And we'll go take a look at the Indiana Harbor Belt. There's an incredible amount of private property back in here, and even more important, there are people trying to work, do their jobs, and they really don't need to be messed with, interfered with. A lot of cars coming and going. Should you come down here, you gotta be careful. You really have to be careful. So these tracks here are the Indiana Harbor Belt. I'm not seeing any headlights, so it looks like no train for today. The bridge there, that's Salt Creek. I don't know how many times I've used Salt Creek as the landmark in my videos. A lot of deer back in here. And at least one of the tracks was rebuilt this last year. So I made a video about railroad trespassers. There were some young teens climbing one of these towers. I think it was this one here. And what's interesting is I had a number of people who were viewers, and they were upset that I reported them as trespassers. And, you know, the railroads have been really good to me. You know, literally the railroads paid for, you know, my father's career, the house, all the food, the school, and everything. I'm not going to let somebody screw over the railroads. And possibly more importantly, like the one cop said, you know, these idiots, they could fall off and break their necks. Now we're just going to take a close look here. This is one of the connector tracks that goes back to the old Illinois Central. The signal tower kind of masks the Illinois Central Viaduct right there. But this is the track that the Harbor Belt will drop off trains for the CN to pick up later. Too bad. This location is usually good for a train, I would say on average at least once an hour. And I've been over here when I've had 6 an hour, and all 3 tracks, 4 tracks really, were all active. This is like a early 70s commercial subdivision. You know, that was back in the days when people really didn't need a large warehouse. They just needed, you know, like 2,000 square feet or 5,000 square feet, an office on the front, and then the warehouse in back. Now we're talking about these truck terminals that are 1 million square feet, 2 million square feet. Okay, this is Salt Creek. This is actually a very, very picturesque place. I'm just going to pan this way. There's somebody that drops off food on the corner over here for the deer, so it's not unusual to see deer down here. Watching the trains, I see deer, and twice now I've seen severed deer along the tracks. So our destination now is the BNSF. We're going to go down there and take a look at it. I want to say it's probably 2 miles, maybe a little bit more from the old Illinois Central to CN down to the BNSF. The neighborhoods here are Brookfield, Lagrange Park, and Lagrange. The county also patrols through here. And it's not unusual to see a county cop taking radar along the street. And there's also a cop shop back there along the tracks. I should have mentioned that. What is this? 31st Street. Alright. Now, down that alley there, you can get to the tracks. It's one of those borderline gray areas. I don't really go too far down because you can see a sign saying state property, don't trespass. But I've been over there and the local police have never bothered me, you know. And the rule is be respectful. Most police, I think, have a pretty good idea what railfans are all about. You know, they could really care less because they could have other things on their radar that they have to do, things they want to do, things they have to get done. On the other hand, if something comes up and they got to go answer a call out there that's either directly related or indirectly related to a railfan, then there's going to be problems. And then it spreads out and becomes problems for everybody else. Okay, we're coming up here somewhere. Was the old, there was another trolley or interurban that went through Brookfield to Oak Park. And it went from the Stone Avenue station in Lagrange up along the, excuse me, up along the Harbor Belt. And I think the street that it came out on is Lincoln. I think we're coming up on that pretty quick. middle of the street here where the grassy island and the trees are, that's an old railroad right-of-way. And just the other side of that little park, you see the fence back there? That's the Harbor Belt tracks there. So the trolley would come up and they would cross this side street. They'd go down the middle of this street here. I like the way the village has converted this. It's made it a nice avenue. It's really nice looking. But do you see how it keeps on going there? Yeah, it was a trolley, so you could get from Lagrange to Oak Park. We need more stuff like that. Alright, we're coming up at the near the sugar plant. Somebody said they make ice cream in there, like Dairy Queen type ice cream. Then there's a rumor that the factory's gonna shut down and they're gonna move. And it's got the rail fans kind of upset because they got a really cool switching job they do here in the evening. I caught it during the day once, and they had some old locomotives, road switchers out to switch it. So we're gonna look up the road over here. So where that truck is coming out over there, just behind it is some hopper cars. Yeah, that's the plant, and they got their own, I forget what you call it. It's not a true switch engine. It's one of those quasi mule sort of things that they use around factories and grain elevators. You know, it's a machine that can pull maybe one or two fully loaded cars. And then that way they don't have to have the railroad come out. So here's the Harbor Belt at the Burlington Junction, looking north. And right here, this piece of ground right here, this is where the that interurban, that trolley I was telling you about, came through. That viaduct right there, that's the Burlington. And then right over here where this whole ramp and everything is, this is where the trolley interurban came down and then went north. This is really an oddball one-way bridge. I caught a road rage thing here a couple months ago, and then only a few weeks ago I'm coming through here, the guy ahead of me, you see the sign that says divided highway? He went to the left. Yeah, everybody's supposed to go to the right. He went to the left. He was very lucky there was no traffic going the other way. Electric company's been doing a lot of work down here. Yeah, there's this really neat old church right here. Kind of fascinates me because it's kind of hidden. And the signboard has been taken down. I suspect somebody is using it as a residence. I had a cousin who rebuilt the one-room schoolhouse and turned it into a beautiful house. He took the cellar and made that the living accommodations, and the big room upstairs was the family room and the kitchen. I thought it was kind of cool. Okay, so here's the Burlington tracks, and we're in Lagrange, and it's 9:40, so at any time now we should be seeing a Metra coming out, and the Amtrak should be coming out sometime in the next 15-20 minutes. Terrible stoplight, terrible grade crossing. This is one of those grade crossings where quite a few people get killed, intentionally, unintentionally. Alright, Lagrange Fire Department is over here. What are they up to? The fire station's right over here. And so quite often when I come by, they're washing vehicles. Okay, so we just crossed the Burlington. We are heading west. getting back to that trolley, that interurban, this parking area here. This is where their tracks operated. Now I'm filming this, of course, during the plague era, so there's like no cars, nobody's going into the loop. Okay, here's this historic Stone Avenue station. Just yesterday I was over here shooting a bunch of videos, and this is where the trolley track ended, or began, depending on how you want to look at it. I'm not sure where these village boundaries are for the most part. Lagrange has 2 railroad stations. We just saw both of them. And what's happening now is we're coming up on Western Springs, but I don't know where the dividing line is. Lagrange, of course, is famous because it got all the glory for electromotive division of GM and building all the locomotives. Western Springs is a little less famous, but it's notable railroad-wise because when the railroad got put through in the 1870s, we're talking steam locomotives which needed water, and the railroad established a water tank at Western Springs, and I'm almost certain that the whole water development there at the very beginning was for the railroad, was all about the railroad. Fairly certain we're in Western Springs now. Here's the downtown coming up. And we got the Metro. Okay, 9:44 a.m. Okay, unless there's a freight, the next train will probably be the Amtrak. This is a lousy crossing here. So people coming across the tracks have the right of way, but everybody else has to wait. Alright, up over there is the historic water tower for Western Springs. And here's the station. There's the old Watchman's Tower. I think that was for pedestrian crossings. It was back in the days when they would give people jobs like that. Okay, so Western Springs. And then down in here, at this particular crossing, this is where I've set up to do a lot of videos for the Tri-State Tollway project, which is ahead of us there. They got the shoe fly in place. The Tri-State Tollway is down there, and the tollway is getting wider, which means the bridge has to be longer, and then the railroad is updating the bridge, and what they're going to do is they're going to make that bridge wider, and it'll be like technically a 5-track bridge, although they're only going to have 4 tracks. It'll be the 3 main tracks, then a lane for vehicle traffic, and then a track for maintenance away vehicles like rail riders and stuff. They got a beautiful park over there. And we're coming up on Flag Creek here. We're going to go over Flag Creek. Flag with 2 G's. Flag Creek is the sewage ditch for Hinsdale. And the furthest north the sewage comes from is the Elmhurst Hospital up at Roosevelt Road. So we're coming into Hinsdale now. And incidentally, this is like Speed Trap Central down in here. There's the Hinsdale Highlands train station, and there's 2 ways to access it. One is to come in from the south side of the tracks right here at the county line. What do they name this street? Oh, could it be County Line Road? Okay, so there's the Hinsdale Highlands train station. By the way, I was there for a fire not that long ago. Right down in there. So if you have a chance, look up on my channel, Horrible Hinsdale Fire. Now buried somewhere in the channel, I got some old Burlington footage. From the early 90s. VHS stuff. Okay, this is the new Oak Street Bridge. Okay, tracks. So access is not that easy when you get over here. If you come in from York or Garfield, you're going to be coming in from down there, and you want to go this way past the bunker style religious institution. What you're doing is you're making a big loop around some of the hospital stuff. Okay, so there's this parking here. Now the thing about this is, once everything gets going again and people are out and about, it's not going to be real easy to park back in here. But during the plague, it's really not a problem. Hinsdale Hospital. There's the cut. So during this last year, in order to get this project for the tollway going, they've had to rebuild switches and stuff back in here. A whole bunch of track stuff changed. I was gonna park there, and there's a handicap sign. Heck if I know what's handicapped and what's not. So let's get out and take a look at the tracks. 9:50 a.m. Now the depot's falling apart. We got something way down there. Okay, that's a Metra. He's ready to go into Hinsdale. I'll show you what they're doing here. So you see these straps? The straps hold the 6x6 timbers to the steel plate, and the steel plate's holding up the top of this thing. And you can see all the mortar is disappearing. I've run into this problem before, and what I think it is can you see the salt on the ground? Can you see that salt? When it's snowy, when it's icy, they drop a lot of salt. And I believe the salt is decaying all those mortar joints, because it's all the lower ones. All right, we're gonna take a chance here. Let's hop in the car and we'll head back over towards Western Springs and double back. I'd like to catch this morning's Illinois Zephyr, but the Zephyr, you know, that thing can be late, it can be early, usually right around 10 o'clock. Car clock is showing 9:53. Oh, by the way, look straight down there. Okay, that's the Flag Creek. The story I've been given is the part of this big project. They're going to cover over the creek there, cover it with concrete, and then the park down there will get bigger. Well, folks, I'm not a fan of channelizing creeks. You know, Salt Creek up in Elmhurst has been moved and it's been channelized. Addison Creek has been channelized. You go out to Council Bluffs and Old Indian Creek was channelized. Channelization, you know, it keeps nature from doing its job, cleaning, you know, the water. The creek should be kept open. Okay, I think we missed the Metro. Right when we got in the car, I heard the gate signals go. So we're at Oak Street. Okay, there's the Metro there. The gates actually started up a little too early. Traffic. This is rare. This is a bad corner, guys. And I use the word guys as a non-secular noun meaning everybody. If I really wanted to get technical about it, I would preface it with the word use. Y-O-U-S-E, as in use guys. It was great. I had a boss I worked for, and she would use that expression all the time, and I really loved it. Use guys. Every once in a while, you'll find a person that doesn't like being called a guy. Doesn't matter what the gender or anything is. They just don't want to be one of the guys. I know a family, their last name is Guy. I remember the joke was they'd always ask, oh, and how are all the little guys? All right, we're coming back into Western Springs. Here's the park. What is it, Spring Rock Park? Western Springs appears to be a very vibrant town, a friendly town. When I'm along the tracks there is an incredible amount of pedestrian traffic. And I have yet to meet somebody who's nasty. I'm not like making that a challenge or anything. But when the people come through and they see you taking pictures, sometimes they ask. They're respectful. They'll stop and let you finish your picture. They don't want to get in the way. It's fun when they stoop down. They don't want to mess up your shot. So they'll like stoop down and walk underneath the camera area. And it's cool when they ask. A lot of people live here and they're not even aware of what the project is going on. And not that long ago, I met somebody who had an Elmhurst connection, and it turned out that they knew some of the stuff that I was working on. And they gave me some insight. And then what was neat was, even though I was younger, I was able to give these people some insight. Okay, so that, oh, I think I see, I'm almost sure of it. I see an LED, which means we're going to catch the Illinois Zephyr. If I can get out of the Buick. Okay, so that means the Zephyr and the Metra inbound are coming up at about the same time. Well, I timed this out pretty decent. That was the Illinois Zephyr, and as it was coming through, I got a memory warning, so I only have like 3 minutes left on this chip, and so it's probably gonna turn off on me in the middle of a profound thought. We must have missed that Metra. Yeah, when we were going around the block, that Metra got ahead of us, so. All right, so you got to see my usual patrol. What I usually do is I double back. So whatever route I did to get here, I just turn around and go back the other way. So when I was shooting that clip, a woman with a young child in a wagon came by, and she was very respectful and waited and kept a little distance, and the little kid was cute and talking, you know, what's going on, you know. So, yeah, I kind of like it when they're like that. Alright, so Lagrange. Not Lagrange, Western Springs. it's gonna kick out on me anytime now, so I'll just say from Western Springs, Illinois, it's been a fun to give you the tour. Be sure to check my channel, check all the new videos, new uploads. Check the playlists. The playlists are getting big and fat. It says. So this is going to be like a 90-minute video. It's going to take like 2 days to upload on the, I won't say who it is. It ain't dial-up either. Still says 1 minute, and 1 minute later.